Hello everyone, and welcome back to Retromancers. We're on our 13th episode now, so we figured we'd do something a little bit special. A challenge. You want to explain the situation?
Alright, so for this video, we're going to attempt, or rather Keith is going to attempt a perfect run in Friday the 13th. A classic game made by the infamous LJN, but I think it gets a bad rap.
Yes, game gets panned along with all of LGN, probably because of James Rolfe. But I will actually say, in addition to defending other LJN games like Jaws, this game might be gameplay-wise my favorite NES game to play. I could always go back to and try my luck against Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, I've rented this from the video store a few times, and I've just gotten wrecked. I think I was probably 8 or 9 at the time.
Did it traumatize you?
Nah, I don't think it had the effect that, when Jason would show up when you're walking, I think that was more startling than in the house. But the zombies would probably kill me, or the wolves. I
think the game actually, the first time I played, I think it did make me shit a brick, because I was playing super close with my head right up to the TV screen. So the first time you jumped out,
2 in the morning when you should be sleeping.
Yeah, it was on Christmas or something like that.
It's a good time for Friday the 13th.
That happened. Yeah, that happened to me on one of the Final Fantasies too. Every time you get into a random battle, it's I was like, oh shit. Yes. Anyway, I'm a man. So. Over the years, I've been playing this game and gradually honing my craft to be able to beat the game without losing a single counselor or a single child. Now, to understand what that means, you need to know how the game operates if you don't know yet. So, maybe you can explain a little bit what the situation here is in Camp Crystal Lake.
Alright, so the objective of the game is pretty straightforward. You have 6 camp counselors trapped in Crystal Lake, as well as 15 children. And Jason is wandering around Crystal Lake. You actually have to kill him 3 times, where each successive kill makes him stronger the next time. And each death occupies a day in the game, which has some crazy time vortex where a day is about an hour, and then the night just falls upon you, and it stays that way until Jason dies.
It's like Alaska.
It's always daytime there.
Well, it depends on the time of the year. Alright, you screw up my analogy. Anyway, go.
Alright, so you have to kill Jason, but while you're trying to find weapons and better prepare yourself for that fight, he's going to be roaming around Crystal Lake, either attacking other counselors that are hanging out in cabins, or going after the children, which is a major hassle because they're in the middle of the lake, you can't park any counselors nearby, and you only have 30 seconds, I think.
Yeah, the timer, there's a timer that goes down from 60 to 0, but as soon as it gets to 30, one of the children will die. So if you want a perfect run, you got to get there in 30 seconds.
Right.
So because it's going to be difficult for me to explain stuff like strategy while actually playing the game, we're doing this video now to kind of set the stage, and then the actual attempt will follow.
Yeah, my role here is just to provide color commentary and not necessarily revisit all of the details that we're discussing here.
Now, so I'm not sure if you can completely see the map of the game here, but in Camp Crystal Lake, there's a lot of big cabins and a lot of small cabins. There is the lake where the kids are, and a couple of forests, and the cave where Jason's mother's severed head is. The key thing to realize about the cabins is that when you go into a small cabin with a counselor, you can go into the map and change to other counselors. That's something I don't think James actually noted in his video, which is crucial for being able to strategize properly. The big cabins are for more of exploration and doing little side options like lighting fireplaces, because that helps you get items and maybe weapon upgrades and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so as Keith just mentioned, weapon upgrades. You start off with the rock, it's very weak, and it's got a pretty bad trajectory.
Arcs.
Yeah, so you want to upgrade that immediately to the knife, which is pretty good just getting around, and you kind of want to hand that off to other counselors as quickly as possible.
So the reason why that's even a thing is because all the counselors have different abilities. Basically, it all boils down to Mark and Chrissy. Those are your 2 all-stars. They can jump the best, run the best, and Mark has the added bonus of being able to row quickly to get the children in the lake. Everyone else sort of basically sucks. Maybe Laura's alright. So you're basically using those 2 guys the whole game, and if you get a knife, you run into another counselor, you give them the knife, and then they can just get another knife. So now that we've set the stage for the game mechanics, let's explain what this perfect game really means. First things first, we can have no counselor die and no child die I think I may have seen one or two other people on YouTube able to pull that off. But I think they were kind of maybe using a little bit of an exploit where you can sort of cheat to get key weapons early and then just like rush the game through. So don't want to do that. And to make it more canonical with Friday the 13th and cool, we're going to add a couple of house rules.
Right. So the first rule is you have to get every special weapon that requires some condition to earn it. It's the torch, the pitchfork, and the sweater.
And that has movie importance. Second movie.
It's the first one.
It was Jason's mother was the big
who
person.
Killed, I think, didn't she kill Kevin Bacon with a pitchfork?
No, with an arrow through the neck.
Oh.
Like grabbed his head and then like the arrow like comes through an arrowhead.
I thought someone got pierced with the pitchfork.
I remember in one of the movies there's actually like a double sex pitchfork, like two characters having sex and it's like double impalation, if that's a word.
Impalation?
Which is cool. Anyway, the sweater was actually from the second movie where the main girl character puts it on to kind of fool Jason into thinking like that's his mother or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the scent or something.
Yeah, or whatever. So, but that's why you got to get the sweater. It's key.
Yeah. There are two other weapon upgrades that you can get, the machete and the axe. For the perfect run, we don't count them because they're not really obtained through any special conditions.
And then they're not unique, you can get any number of them.
Yeah, so again, you just have to kill a lot of zombies or just go into a cabin in the woods.
Which is a dumb idea.
Yeah, it's like the effort to obtain them pale in comparison to the power of the torch anyway, so they don't count.
So we're comfortable with that being the weapon side of the house rules. One each of the cool special items, torch, pitchfork, and sweater. For the other house rule, it's a little bit style, but, conforming to the typical horror movie final girl trope, you gotta finish with a girl, and that girl's gotta be Chrissy.
Yeah.
Because not only is she just best, also in the third movie, the character that beats Jason temporarily is Chris, a girl. So, just for style, you want Chris with the sweater and the pitchfork on day 3 with the candlestick in the study.
Yeah. We're mixing games now. Yeah, so Mark is more than qualified, but it's Chrissy's game.
I mean, he can kill Jason on the first 2 days if you need to, but you want Chrissy on day 3. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've established both the general mechanics of the game and our rules for a perfect game. Now, how are we going to get there? How do we pull this off?
Alright, so the first rule is don't fuck with the forests. It's some crazy Zelda Lost Woods on crack, because you can go up and go down, and it will be a completely different area.
There's some maps online and stuff. You could probably try to memorize all the kooky ways to get through the forests, but there's only one reason to actually go into the forest, and that's to acquire vitamins, which will heal you. And you just get them to appear by jumping around like an idiot, which is the way all items appear. You can just sort of poke your head into the forest from the first entrance, jump around, and then leave, and get vitamins and leave, because that first entrance is fine, it's clear, Another reason is that if Jason starts attacking the kids while you're in the middle of the forest, you're just done. Because you have to get out of the forest, into a cabin, switch to some kid who's close to the lake, and then row into the lake. And 30 seconds, not going to cut it if you're in the forest, so.
Yeah. Even if you plan for some sort of, child defense counselor right by a lake cabin, it takes 20 seconds to get there.
Kind of related to that as a general guideline is make sure you don't downgrade your weapons. Because like I just mentioned, you make stuff appear by jumping. So you could have the torch, jump around, make a knife appear, get that knife, and just completely ruin your day. So I don't know why they didn't have some sort of bit switch in the code there, right?
You would think, but so what's funny with that is even though day 2 and 3 are just harder in general because of stronger, faster enemies and a stronger, faster Jason, you lose a key avoidance tactic in jumping over enemies. Now, once you get the torch, you have to kill everything because there might just be a knife waiting for you.
And actually, your point about Jason getting stronger on nights 2 and 3, on the first 2 days, encounter Jason in the cabins. But on day 3, Jason just goes into crazy hyper overdrive mode, and you do not want to mess with him in the cabin because you're going to get roughed up. Unless you're like a god at this, and in that particular aspect, I'm not. So you want to take him outside because you can just sort of rapid fire and barrage him and then hunt him down. And if you got Chrissy with a sweater, taking half damage from everything. Forgot to mention that. Sweater makes you take half damage.
Yeah.
And if you have vitamins, that's what you want to do. Just burn them down.
Yeah, and Keith mentioned hunt down Jason. Most times his movements are, realistic. And
they make sense, right? You can sort of plan where he's probably going around the map, which is cool.
So once you're trying to hunt him down at the end, follow the way he exits, and there's a good chance that you'll just keep fighting him.
Another kind of pro tip is if Jason's attacking a counselor, you can sort of go in there with your super counselor, go into the cabin, switch to the other counselor, make them leave, and then Jason will stay with the counselor that you want to fight him with, and then you can either take him in the cabin or try to get him outside. So that's like an important tactic later if Jason mixes it up.
Yeah, so there's little things that you can do to kind of predict where the game's going to go, and you really need those on the final day because he's just he's in like a berserker rage.
One thing that I do like, it's just one of those things that happens that is cool, is every once in a while you're just like walking around and you duck into a cabin and it just says Jason in the corner. Like you just happen to walk into a cabin that Jason is in, which is
cool. That's actually pretty startling in a sense because it's like by seeing that, it's like a battle is inevitable.
Yeah, and that's a situation where you might actually not be prepared for it. Because, if the Jason alarm is ringing and you can
pick your counselor, you can kind of move things around a bit. But if you just happen to enter it, there's only one way to exit, and you got to take them out.
Or you could try doing the weird counselor swizzling that I mentioned, but you might not be in an opportune situation to pull that off.
Yeah, and then if that glitches out, then you're left with George.
Yeah, it's George, Paul, and Debbie that suck. Although Debbie can row. So anyway, no one can row anywhere near as well as Mark.
No.
It's sad, like if you look up the counselor breakdown, it has like rankings from like 1 to 6, But like Debbie's number 2, and she's just like light years behind Mark for whatever reason. He's the row master.
Yeah, they just, I don't know, left a bit on or something for his rowing speed.
That reminds me of some other bullshit, right? Ranting a little bit. Sometimes when you're rowing, not with Mark because he's so damn fast, but Jason will just come and swim, and like nothing you can do to block it will take off like 1/8 of your life or something like that. But is bullshit because Jason drowned as a child, like in the movies. Like that's his whole thing. I think he's like scared of water or something like that. But he's like a fucking track star in water.
Plus, if he's threatening the children, how is he swimming in the lake?
Good point. Not to mention how does the Jason alarm even work? It's not like they had cell phones in Crystal Lake back in the day. How do the counselor in the cave, how does the cave counselor know that the children are being attacked?
The cave counselor. Like that's someone's job.
Yeah.
You're going to be in charge of this cave that's full of wolves.
And severed heads.
And severed heads. And also basket weaving in the caves.
Where you get like the patches, like in DuckTales, you get like the cave defense patch and it has like a severed head picture on the patch. Junior Woodchucks or whatever in DuckTales.
Yes.
Right? Well, that reminds me of one final strategic pitfall, literally to note, is that in the caves, if you're not paying attention, you could actually fall the only area in the game and just kill a counselor immediately, which I have done.
Yeah, what is nice though with this game is there is no knockback when you get hit by an enemy.
True, when you get a little invincibility.
Right, so you can use that to your advantage, so you just kind of...
Especially against Jason, outside.
Yeah, so it's like, alright, you let him hit you once, or when Jason's going to show up outside, all the other enemies will run away, which is actually pretty comical. But if you could somehow time it and get clipped by them,
yeah,
it's nice.
Or another thing to note, now that you mentioned that, is like, so like Mike said, like you'll see like the zombies try to shamble away and the screen stops scrolling, so you're like, oh shit, it's coming. But you can sort of take that moment and try to like dive into another path or like into a cabin to save yourself if for whatever reason you don't want to take him outside.
Yeah, but you will have to fight Jason at some point. This game remembers everything.
Yeah.
Even items. If you find a vitamin in the forest and you leave, the vitamin's going to show up in the next screen.
Yeah, it follows you. Yeah.
Like, vitamins do.
Now you're reminding me again of one more thing. Now we're really going nuts with this, is that outside, Chrissy and Mark are crazy, like high jumpers. They can jump over Jason, which if you're a master, you can actually use that to your advantage. But like you just said, especially on day 2 and 3, you don't even want to do that. You might as well take the hit or two, get your invulnerability, and just mash on the button.
That's it.
Yeah. So now, to round out this final strategy, we've talked about these 3 nights, right? So let's break it down. It's kind of like, Dante's Inferno or something like that. It funnels down to Jason at the end. It's like 70% of your time will be in setting things up in day 1, and maybe 20% of time in day 2, and then that mad dash to the finish.
Yeah.
So in day 1, you're going to start the game with Chrissy, kill a couple of zombies, get the lighter, then run around to all the big cabins, try to light all the fireplaces so you can get the flashlight, and then later the torch. And in the meantime, ducking your head into the forests, getting vitamins and such.
After that, repeat the fireplace quest with Mark so he can also get a torch. And the reason why you want to do that in the first day is Jason's the weakest at this point. Things are still mostly controllable, and Mark's really going to be your Jason killer for the first 2 days, so you want to get him the most powerful weapon as soon as possible.
Another reason why you want that double torch is because of our rules, right? One of those torches is going to be replaced with pitchfork.
Right.
So.
And then moving on to day 2, the sole objective is to get the sweater from Jason's mom.
With Chrissy.
With Chrissy. So you go right to the caves. Hopefully no children get attacked while you're in the caves, or...
That's a problem.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the location of her in the cave is very quick. Go in, make a left, and you're good.
If you're doing all this stuff that we just mentioned, you'll pick up the key along with the flashlight, which you need to get into Jason's mother's area. So
right, exactly.
Oh, she is kind of a bitch.
Yeah, it's some odd glitches.
Yeah.
Where some hits don't register.
You'll see.
And she has kind of a random attack pattern, so it's just a war of attrition at that
so
point.
the torch helps.
Yes. So once you get that, you're free to take down Jason either with Mark or Chrissy, depending on where he is and the life of each of the counselors at that point.
Yeah. And maybe get a couple of extra vitamins if you happen to miss some on the first day.
Yeah, that's really kind of like your last chance to fill up on those.
And then night 3, or day 3, which quickly becomes night 3, is when Jason is just completely crazy. So your mission becomes very concise. It's just get to the cave with Chrissy, who has a sweater and the torch, rapidly kill Jason's mother, get the pitchfork, and then hunt Jason down as fast as possible. Hopefully he does not attack the kids.
Yeah, because if he attacks the kids, you have to fight him in the cabin, and in Berserk mode, it's almost impossible to avoid that attack unless you're like pixel perfect.
You actually can do a weird sort of cheat, like dodge both his attacks with like one dodge and come like you said, pixel perfect. I no longer possess that skill. It would take me like, a couple of months of zenning out to get that. So basically on night 3, if I get him in the cabin, I just, stand there and get hit and just try to hit him 7 times to get out of that situation as fast as possible.
Yeah, so. You can maybe survive one child attack on day 3, but then after that, you'll probably knock him into berserk. Once he gets to like near death, then if you're stuck in the kid's cabin, you're kind of done.
All right, I gotta urinate, so we gotta wrap this up.
We got the urination light.
Yeah, the urination alarm is bleeping.
60 seconds where you just
my bladder explodes. You and your bladder are dead. Game over.
Perfect run ended before it began.
Oh, one final thing, right? That you came up with another house rule to give me a little bit of a reprieve, right? So.
Oh, right. We are allowing a day 1 mulligan for this run. So essentially, as soon as you start off, the children are getting attacked, and you have no one nearby, and there's just no way you can save them, or just some other oddity with the game.
We'll allow some quick resets. But once we're in day 2, all bets are off. Whatever happens, you're going to see it, whether I succeed or fail.
Yeah, I would probably say as soon as you get the first torch, that's like you're locked in.
Okay.
Once you get that. Everything before then, it's like still up in the air.
Right, so the game is afoot. Are we ready to do this? Are you ready to speak like the wind?
Does wind speak?
Does now.
Alright, so we'll grab our torches and pitchforks and go hunt down Jason.
A pre-game ritual. I couldn't wait.
No. Just gonna show you eating this graham cracker. So good.